Hello and welcome to MorningFile. I'm your host, Emma McCarty, and today I am joined with Dexter James to discuss his new novel, Murder of a Multitude. So to begin, I guess, why don't you just start with giving us a background of how you got into writing?
I've always wanted to write, and the job I had, I was in IT for many years, but I found myself doing a lot of technical documentation.
Mhm.
So then gradually, as I came closer to retirement, I still had that need to write. So I decided I'd start writing stories instead.
Yeah, and so obviously we're here to talk about Murder of a Multitude. So to
Da,
kind
da,
of
da, da.
to kind of start to get into that, why don't you give just a brief description of what it's about?
It was a follow-up from a murder mystery that I'd previously written, Murder of a Late Night TV Host. And it's the same crew, the same people, and it just sort of follows on. They're separate stories, but I wanted to keep it going. And so I came up with this idea of a serial killer. I shouldn't say that maybe, but that's what it was. And that's the subject of the book, the serial killer. And I don't let on early why this person is doing the killing. That comes later.
Okay. Like you said, it's, I guess, a second installment of a series. Do you have any plans to do a third?
Yes, I finish up with a little note that sort of leads into the one I'm writing now, which is Murder of a Clown.
Mhm.
There's a theme here: murder of, murder of, murder of. Yeah, so this one's Murder of a Clown that I'm writing right now.
Yeah, so obviously kind of you can see there's a theme with murder of type stuff. How did
Yeah,
you decide, and even with your other books, they're all kind of mystery related. How did you decide that that's the direction you wanted to go with books?
I don't know really, because the previous 7 books I've written didn't have a hint of mystery or crime. I just decided I wanted to write a mystery book, and that's what I did. And the first one I quite enjoyed doing, and so far the people who've told me they've read it hasn't guessed or worked out how it was done. So I'm quite pleased about that. So it's a whodunit that actually worked, I
Yeah,
think. So that's good. The second one is not so much a whodunit, and this next one's not so much a whodunit, but what happens is sort of a mystery. Yeah. The other books, I mean, I've written historical, comedy, fantasy.
hmm,
Can't seem to find a genre that I'll stick to, really.
like to jump around. That's
Yeah, I
good.
like jumping.
Then you
Yeah.
never run out of ideas.
Huh. I wouldn't go as far as to say that.
Maybe speaking too soon.
Yeah.
How did you then kind of create, I guess, going with ideas, create the characters for the book, and even come up with the storyline? How long did that take to create?
The storyline for this one didn't take too long. What took a while is to come up with the facts and information behind it to make sure I got it right and how it all fitted in. The dates, if you was to read it, you'd see that the dates actually went back 50 years. I had to go along with those, and it was, and as I said, with my dyslexia, it was common to try, oh God, did I get that right?
Mhm.
And so I had to keep re-looking at it, but the story came in the end.
Yeah, so I guess you've obviously released books before, and before COVID happened. How would you say maybe it's different releasing a book during a pandemic versus regular life?
That's a good question. I guess for me, it doesn't matter too much. I'm retired. So being stuck at home writing a book is not really any different to what it was before the pandemic.
Mhm.
So in fact, it gave me something to do, and I managed to sit down and write it reasonably quickly because there was nothing else to do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
uh, that was I found quite easy in that respect.
Yeah, for sure. So what have you seen as a response from the public so far with the book?
Um, I haven't seen the sales figures yet. I was hoping this would do a little bit better. The problem with self-publishing, you have to do your own marketing,
Hmm.
and that's the biggest problem. I was told by a retired agent, he said the trouble is nowadays publishers won't touch you unless you've got an agent, and an agent won't touch you unless you've got a bestseller. Sort of a catch-22 situation. So unless you're in the media or a celebrity, which I'm neither, then it's very difficult to get a publisher and even market. So you have to do all the marketing yourself, hence my emails to you and other radio stations.
Yeah, it's a real, like, how do you get a bestseller if you can't get in there? And then how do you?
Oh, yeah, it's a catch-22. But I'm not too concerned about it because I enjoy the writing. So if it doesn't do well, it doesn't make any difference to me, really. I'll still put it out. So
Yeah, and that's the most important thing, is that you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm sure even now, people are probably looking for books, even as we hopefully don't move back into a second wave. People, I'm sure, will look for something to read.
Some of those headlines this morning were a little bit daunting, weren't they? So I saw we may be going backwards, and I'm sure you're more cognizant of that than I am where you are. So I'm sure campus and everything else is pretty scary right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Definitely interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess one question that I kind of wanted to ask you that I thought would be interesting, kind of going along with maybe moving back into more of a quarantine situation where people are in their homes. Do you have any, aside from your new book, book recommendations or things you've been reading?
I read a lot of Robert B. Parker books. Unfortunately, he died a few years ago. They made movies out of him with Tom Selleck as one of his characters in Stone, Police Chief Stone in Boston area. I love his books. I love the way he writes them. Grisham books, of course. I read Grisham. Stephen King, not so much now. I used to like Stephen King, but and the one I'm reading right now is a P.D. James.
Okay.
So yeah, a detective to see what I did wrong. So yeah, I do like reading, so it helps.
Yeah, especially to pass the time.
Yeah.
So I guess my last question for you then is, where can people find Murder of a Multitude?
It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon.ca, and or they can contact me and I'll get them a copy. But yeah, it's on Amazon.ca. Available. I believe you can actually go into the stores and order it from there, but I expect they'll put a bit of a charge on that. But hopefully one day we'll get a publisher and we'll be able to find it in any bookstore, but you never know.
That was Dexter James speaking about his latest book, Murder of a Multitude. The book is the second book in his mystery series, and to access it, you can click the link below. For more Morning File content, you can visit cfmu.ca.